Manufacturing companies in Asia contribute approximately 20% of global carbon emissions. To discuss this, we have Camphil's Jayan Kaushal, Wacker Neusen's Senada Jayasekara, and Frost and Sullivan's Shantanu Kangakidkar. Now, for everyone here, you may choose to agree or disagree with each other's POV during the discussion. So let's begin with the challenges. What industry-wide challenges do manufacturers face in reducing carbon emissions within the built environment?
I can say that the industry needs to collaborate with the number of stakeholders to understand what they are working and how we can work together to achieve the carbon emission net zero in times to come. So I think it's industry collaboration. I think is the most important thing for me.
Now let's hear it from Shantanu.
From a consulting perspective, as we work with multiple organizations in the region, what we are seeing is that to achieve the desired innovative solutions that can help us address the carbon emissions, we also need the supporting infrastructure and the technology to grow at the similar pace as well. So just to give an example of an aviation industry, if we want an all-electric aircraft to be deployed in the next few years, we need the supporting battery technology to also be developed at a similar pace so that we can have the required aircraft, all-electric aircraft deployed. So that this is just an example of what when I say the supporting infrastructure and technology, which also needs to develop parallelly.
How about for you, Sinarat?
I will fully admit that it's correct. I second all what the colleague said. Coming from a niche within a niche, let me start by saying that the mindset and the mentalities have to change. The customers or the industry must accept the innovations or the so-called carbon emissions or net zero carbon emissions. So we have to start from that. So before we could run, we should be able to crawl. And that is the most important thing, learning to crawl, learning to walk, and then to run. So change of mindset, accept the mindset, accept the mentality, the change, and then everything else would be easier to implement.
So considering everything that you've all just mentioned, how can manufacturing companies work together to tackle these challenges? Maybe we can begin with Frost and Sullivan's take on this time.
Sure. So there are different types of companies. There are the larger established organizations who have been there in the industry for many decades. But now we're also seeing a new generation of organizations come into play who maybe have started in the last few years, but are specialized or focusing on specific aspect of the industry. And this is where these two types of organizations would come together and share the expertise and knowledge of the technology, and where that can speed up the deployment and development of a next generation technology. So that is something which I feel all different types of organizations, also including different stakeholders in the industry, should come together, specifically now in terms of technology sharing, and of course financial funding is something which is always good to have.
Now, how about from the side of Wacker Neusen and Camphil?
I can add to that is this: we it's always work with the other manufacturing companies. Our product and solution goes to other manufacturing industries to achieve their sustainability norms. So in that respect, we work very closely with them, and if they tell us what is that they need, then companies like us will be able to create or innovate product which is required for that particular kind of application. For example, semicon industry is very specialized industry, and there were very high degree of requirement for indoor air quality. So we always work very closely with our partners to make sure that our solution goes with their manufacturing footprint and they achieve the sustainability at the same time desired level of product quality.
How about for you, Sinarat?
Very much. Again, just to complement what the colleagues had to say, we have been at the cutting edge innovation for so many years. We are a 176-year-old company, and the innovation has been a part and parcel of the game. And what I always say is we have to change the mindset and at the same time train and convince the others. In our case, it would be the contractors. In our case, it would be the consultants, that we train them and lobby to change the way of the procedure that they do their day-to-day projects or business. And having said that, to answer your last question, what you asked, we are in the midst of even developing the batteries, the battery technology, and introducing this technology even to our competitors. So there's one level platform for even the competitors to draw on our battery technology that is leading towards the zero emission or the zero carbon emission.
So, Sanarat, since you've already mentioned innovation, let's talk about that. What new technologies show the most potential for reaching net zero carbon emissions?
As said, we are in the construction industry, which is contributing to a lot of the portion of the GDP in Singapore and in other areas. And here we start with building technology, building as fast as possible with the best quality and with the least amount of emission, carbon emission. So we have been the pioneers in this industry for complete consolidation, where we use battery technology instead of diesel or petrol-driven technology. So that itself has three main points to again answer your question. First, there is zero emission in the way of exhaust emission. There's zero emission in the way of noise. So noise pollution is drastically reduced. And of course, we do not pollute the environment. And there we say that battery technology has come a long way, and we do not use petrol or diesel engines. So fossil fuels are reduced drastically.
Now, let's hear it from Giant before we end with Shantanu.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. And I think, like other companies, we are also trying our best to reduce our carbon emission in terms of using the alternative of sustainable energy, for example, the solar panels and geothermal kind of thing. But having said that, there are new technologies that are going into the production and packaging for which we can improve our product performance. For example, EPD is becoming important, environmental product declaration kind of thing for our customers, so they know how much CO2 is being emitted in the entire process. And so technologies are going into the material side of the product. We are the clean air solution providers globally. We clean the air with the help of premium air filtration solution. And that requires lots of new technologies to improve the performance. So while we focus on three things, the energy savings, which saves the cost for running the entire operation. The second is reducing the waste by having a longer time of the filtration, so you don't have to change every now and then. And third thing, which is most important, is keep the air clean to the level which is required and desired for any processes, people safety and healthy and production.
Now, let's hear it from Shantanu.
Speaking from an specifically from an aviation industry perspective, adopting future fuels, and when I say future fuels, specifically it's electric, hydrogen, and SAF to a certain extent as well. SAF is a sustainable aviation fuel. So adopting these fuels across the aviation ecosystem, most importantly in the usage of flights, but of course in some cases for ground support vehicles at the airport as well. So adopting these future fuels will help drastically reduce the emissions from the aviation industry. And we all know aviation contributes to about 2 to 3% of the total GHG emissions globally. And if that has to be brought down, moving from fossil fuels, as we are discussing, to these possible future fuels that will be crucial and critical to doing so.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights today, Giant, Sanarat, and Shantanu.
Thank you for having us.
Once again, those were Giant Kaushal, Asia Pacific Deputy President at Camphil, Sanarat Jayasekara, Regional President and Managing Director at Wacker Neuson, and Shantanu Kangakidkar, Senior Consultant at Frost & Sullivan. For more news, visit manufacturing.asia.